All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Hall of State in Fair Park, home of the Dallas Historical Society. For those who are online this evening, hello and thank you for tuning in. My name is Carl Chow, and I'm the Executive Director of the Dallas Historical Society. For those who are not familiar with us, we're the keepers of Dallas and Texas history, with a collection of over 3 million items. We were founded in 1922, and our mission is to collect, preserve, and exhibit our collection so that we can educate and inspire current and future generations. This building that you're sitting in, the Hall of State, was built in 1936 for the Texas Centennial. It's been our home since 1938. And thanks to the voters of Dallas and the 2017 bond package, we just completed a renovation of $14.4 million, which makes this building clean, shiny, and kind of what you see today. As a matter of fact, the ribbon cutting was only Tuesday night, so this is the first real event we've had in here. So thank you all for being here. We have wonderful programming year-round, and we're trying to get the word out. We do a monthly happy hour called Pour Yourself into History. That's usually held at a location that's somewhat historical, and we have cocktails. And we also have our brown bag lunch, which is monthly as well, which is here in this room, where someone will come tell stories about Dallas, and you can grab lunch. And plus, we have evening events just like this. So to find out more about what we do, just go online to dallashistory.org, become a member, and that way you'll stay in the loop of what we're doing. Now, about collections, we are so honored here to have Coach Landry's collection and the legacy that he's left behind. After years of discussion with Tom Landry Jr., he decided last year that the Landry family was going to donate their father's belongings to us. So Tom, thank you very much. We've got Tom and Gina here in the audience tonight. Thank you very much for your generosity. And Tom, just so you know, because of what you've done, Ron St. Angelo, the Dallas Cowboy official photographer, has agreed to donate his collection to us as well. So we're getting the collection of Dallas Cowboy photography. And with that, there will be photographs of Coach Landry out there tonight that he's giving everybody as kind of a party favor. So when you leave, please be sure to take one. I'd also like to thank our sponsor. Clint Murkison Jr. started the Dallas Cowboys. The first thing he did was go hire a coach named Tom Landry. So it comes full circle tonight that the Murkison family is our sponsor for this event. We're so thankful for your generosity, and we're glad you're here. We've got Robert and Murkison and their families here, so if y'all can please give them a round of applause. So thank you very much. Now on to the show. Mike Doocy. Anybody who's a sports fan in Dallas in the last 20 years has probably seen him on TV. I mean, he's pretty much seen everything, and he's been gracious enough tonight to be our moderator for this event. So I don't know if there's much to introduce about him that people don't know. So, Mike, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, it's great to see you. You bet. Is the collection not amazing? Seriously? It's just, I've been so lucky and fortunate to work in what I think is the best sports market in America for the last 26 years plus. But I was unlucky in that I missed the Landry era. And I got here about 5 years after that era ended, that wonderful era. I was fortunate enough to meet Coach Landry on a few occasions, at least one charity golf tournament where I think I cursed in his presence. He pretended not to hear. But I remember calling him on the phone, and all the news outlets had his home phone, which seems amazing at this time. But I remember calling him early in my time here to try to get his reaction to some story that was developing. And he was so kind. He talked about how they were so glad that I'd come to town and how they were enjoying my broadcasts early on. And I thought, man, that's just that shows just how gracious the man is. And I know everybody in this room is well aware of that. We're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to tell some stories. A few of them may even be true with this group. We'll see.
You're the liar.
But let's introduce our panel, shall we? First of all, one of the great, well, we've got two guys who we described in this way, but I'm talking first about the guy wearing the Hall of Fame jacket. One of the great defensive backs ever to play in the NFL, drafted by the Cowboys from the University of Oregon in 1964, 10 straight Pro Bowls, started as a safety, was a halfback for about an hour and a half, I didn't realize, with the Cowboys. And then, of course, moved to corner, and the rest is history. Inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1990. I wrote 94. Was it 94 or 96? 96. Mel Renfro, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
The man sitting next to Mr. Renfro was a 10-year staple in the Cowboys secondary. Captain Crash, 6-time Pro Bowler from Ouachita Baptist. Every building on that campus is now named after him. That's a little known fact. He wasn't drafted, but obviously left a mark on the history of America's team and on the receivers he punished. Cliff Harris will go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame next summer. Welcome, Cliff Harris. And finally, the original 88 with us here tonight. From Tulsa University, teamed up with Roger Staubach in that little play that became known as the Hail Mary against the Vikings in that playoff game. But the story of Drew, of course, is much larger than that. Like Cliff, a member of the 1970s All-NFL team. Drew Pearson, a finalist in the senior category for the Hall of Fame. We're not going to jinx it, but we're feeling pretty good about it at this point.
Don't ask me about it.
He'll be joining these gentlemen in Canton before long. Drew Pearson, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Mel, let's start with you. You were first on the scene with this franchise and with Coach Landry. You drive to Fair Park. You see the Cotton Bowl where it all started for you. Then you see this exhibit. Just your opening thoughts and what comes to mind as these memories come flooding back for you.
Well, I think the number one thing is Coach Landry. Just a statue of a man, an individual, a personality. The hat, the silhouette. We as players, we all looked up to him. Great teacher. Taught us all to be better players, better individuals, better men. As we retired and looked back on our career, we knew that we were better people because of Landry and his influence on us. We had great teammates. Bob Lilly and Randy White, Ed Too Tall Jones, these guys just, it was great to play alongside these individuals. The amount of championship games that we were involved in, Super Bowls, wow. What can you say about all that? You just can't. Somebody said one time it's like going to the mountaintop a couple of times over. But that's what it was like to play for the Dallas Cowboys and play for a coach like Tom Landry.
Yeah, Super Bowls, we remember what those are like. And Cliff, you were telling me as you were driving up, ran into you in the parking lot, just seeing the Cotton Bowl, just seeing that structure brought back some great memories. And I'm sure when you come inside and see this incredible Landry family collection, it just must be a real walk down memory lane for you.
Yeah, it was just incredible to go out and, I didn't know what to expect tonight. And but when I pulled into the Cotton Bowl and I got here early and drove around the Cotton Bowl, and I thought, oh my gosh, what great memories there were of, a kid out of Ouachita Baptist that played in the Cotton Bowl and have a coach like Coach Landry in his very unique way of motivating you, very quietly. And because he was a guy that would put a plan in front of you that was more complex than the typical defenses and offenses of that era, but yet could explain it to you and get you to that you could use it and win with it, and in a real subtle way. So he wasn't a yelling coach. he was a coach that, was a coach that knew how to pick the players that he could motivate and motivate those guys, because he could make subtle things, like he would say to me one time. I was talking to you about this earlier. There's one defense that I had to go across and help the other corner, and I would come up and try to make tackles on when I think it was a run. And Coach Landry came to me and he said, "Hey, Cliff, you got to be here for the help Mel on the post and not making a tackle." And he said, "You got it?" So that meant that if I'd go up and make a tackle instead of getting beat on the post, I was going to get cut.
You're wrong.
So that's a real good way to motivate you in a real subtle way,
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I don't need to make that tackle. I need to cover for Mel over there. But I didn't need to cover for Mel, because Mel was great enough that he covered everybody anyway.
Amen.
Drew, we were talking before, and it sounds like at times playing for Coach Landry was like playing for a strict parent. You knew that they had your best interests in mind, kind of with the benefit of hindsight, but at the time, it could be a little bit of tough love, huh?
Absolutely. I respected Coach Landry that way. I looked at him like a father figure. And, I know in my family, my father was a very dominant figure, and I wanted to please him, didn't want to disappoint him. So it was the same thing with Coach Landry. I wanted to please him. I didn't want to disappoint him. And when he told me, when I would make a mistake and he would tell me about it and try to correct that, I didn't want to make that mistake again. The same thing with my dad. I didn't want to make that mistake twice. And I didn't want to make it twice with Coach Landry. So he was pretty dominating. But, we're playing a game of football. The number one thing you got to have in football to be successful is discipline, okay? And Coach Landry was all about discipline. It exuded from the top of the organization right on down to us as players. And that discipline gave us the foundation to work hard, study, be intelligent out there on the field, grasp the system, know our opponents so well, and do the things that we had to do to be successful. And, it was, like I told you, Mike, earlier, in my adult life, after I left Tulsa, I had 3 head coaches in 4 years at Tulsa, and I had no adult mentorship, because now I'm away from home at 18 years old, and that's the last time you had your dad and your mom as your main mentors. So now you go from Tulsa to the Dallas Cowboys, and now your mentorship is Tom Landry, the main guy. And you had Mel and Cliff guys like that, but Tom Landry, wow. And if you're smart enough, being around a guy like that, first thing I wanted to do is take out a notepad and start learning, jotting down things. What can I do to make myself better while watching him and while he did things? And so, it's just a blessing for me. I could have signed with Pittsburgh, Green Bay, but I made the right choice to sign with the Dallas Cowboys, and a lot of that choice had to do with Tom Landry. And a lot of it had to do with Cliff Harris. None with Mel Renfro, because I know I couldn't beat him. But Cliff was a free agent. I was a free agent, so I knew Cliff had success as a free agent. Coach Landry told me, he said, once you're in training camp, number 1 draft pick, free agent, everybody's going to get the same opportunity. And guess what? Everybody got the same opportunity. That's why it was guys like Cliff Harris and Drew Pearson were able to have success in the NFL, because we got the opportunity, and Coach Landry established that.
But I welcomed you to the NFL. You remember in
Oh,
practice
man.
I'd,
People ask me today, what is the hardest you ever been hit? A Thursday practice, before we get to play the Washington Redskins, I'm running routes for the defense, okay, trying to get them ready. I come across the middle, get jacked, okay, by Cliff. That little hole in the helmet was over here. I thought the whole world was blacked out. I'm laying on the ground on the old practice field.
That's not true.
It is true. And you know what Coach Landry said? move the drill up, okay? We got no time to waste on this guy laying on the field getting hurt in practice. But no, Cliff, much respect. And going against Mel Renfro every day in practice, Drew, they say, who is the best you ever played? Well, every day in practice, Mel Renfro. Yeah. And Mel got me ready for training camp because before I went to training camp that week, I thought I was ready to go. And I was out there working at the practice field. I run in these routes. And Mel said, Drew, I can tell what route you're going to run every time you run a route. I'm like, oh, my God. But in saying that, he gave me pointers on what I was doing wrong so I could correct it so I wouldn't carry that into training camp. And coaching points like that made a big difference in my career.
Yeah, I think Mel, if it's possible for a Hall of Famer to be underrated, might be. I mean, some feel he's the greatest athlete in the history of the Dallas Cowboys.
Absolutely.
Because of you're a great track star at Oregon, of course, and football player, and then brought those skills to the NFL. You told me earlier how much Coach Landry, Mel, meant to you just as a mentor from a faith perspective, too. Talk about that a little bit, if you will. We all know Coach Landry lived his Christian faith and walked the walk. What did that mean to you?
Well, there's something about our guys. You know, we had strength and character, and because of Coach Landry, you know, our ability to perform and have that strength, interacting with each other, and he taught us in the classroom a lot of great principles, you know, about life. And after retiring and becoming a Christian myself and going to church and hearing the Word and sitting in church and hearing the Word, and I'm hearing Coach Landry. and I'm saying, well, that's Coach Landry. That's Coach Landry. And all the time he's teaching us about football, you know, from the Bible, quotes from things that came out of the Bible. So, you know, there's no question why we were successful and had all the things, the motivation and the success that we had, because coming straight from God, and he was a man of God, and that carried through him right onto his players, and that bared out success, Super Bowls and championships.
You bet.
Cliff, you talked about how Coach Landry would never curse, but there was one instance where you thought he might have come close. You're talking about that? No?
Yeah, well,
we don't want to be telling stories here, but what did you...
Well, there was, and I agree with Mel. Let me back up.
I'm sorry.
Bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know,
I don't want. I was trying to tee you up for that story.
No, right. So I mean, we were America's team. We were known as America's team because of Tom Landry. I mean, of all times, the wild, years that we were in the 60s and 70s, and it was a rebellious time in America. Coach Landry made us wear ties on road trip, which none of the teams did. We had to have an image, and he would tell the players, hey, sometimes when you'd get out of line, when you say something, he'd say, hey, you can't say that to the press. You have to give this image, because that's the image that he wanted the world to know, that the Dallas Cowboys were a team that they should respect because of the things that he demanded. So the play that we were talking about, and Mel, we were actually in the Cotton Bowl, and it was my first year, and we were playing the New York Giants, and we were behind, and Coach Landry, of all the teams in the NFL, he wanted to beat the Giants more than any other team because he had played for them, he had coached for them, and we were behind at halftime, and he told us, as serious as he had said, you guys, I'll never forget this, as many years ago as this was, you guys are playing like you're not professionals, you're amateurs drawing pay. And that resounded to me and to so many of these other players, but he never, I never heard him curse. He really got us motivated, and we ended up beating the Giants in the Cotton Bowl that year, the way I remember, you know.
You're not going to admit that you.
No.
That's what you've been.
No,
Yeah.
I was trying to walk way
Right.
around it.
Good
Right,
job.
you know.
Good job. Good job.
Drew, he was such an innovator. I guess really on both sides of the ball, right? And it's
Yeah.
principles that we still see in the game today that I suppose the league would have eventually gotten around to implementing, but probably entered the league more quickly because Tom Landry introduced them.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that made him such a great leader was his innovations that he brought to the game, to the NFL. And, you know, on offense, I caught the Hail Mary, the shotgun formation. All these high school coaches and college coaches, Lincoln Riley and all these guys think they invented the shotgun formation, the spread formation. But we were doing that way back in 1975.
Right.
And it was effective in the NFL. But, you know, I could take Coach Landry's playbook right now, dust it off and everything, and use that. If somebody hired me today as an offensive coordinator, Cowboys, I could take that playbook and make it work in today's NFL. That's how innovative he was. And I think, like I said, that's one of the things that made him a great leader was his innovation and the way he did things. And not just on the field, but like Cliff's telling you, wearing suit and ties to games and stuff like that. Not many teams that I know of did that in the NFL. You know, I remember the Redskins came down here to play us in fatigues and khaki pants and all that kind of stuff. You know, we could never get on the Cowboy charter with that kind of outfit on. You know, we had to have that suit and tie on. So Coach Landry influenced, all that. And but let me say this, Coach Landry, Gil Brandt, Tex Schramm, the main people in our organization, but that wouldn't be there if it just wasn't for this family right here, the Murchison family.
There you
all
go.
Right? Mr. Murchison made the right choices, and that is the reason the Dallas Cowboys have had the success in what we are today, is because of you guys and that family. And when I got inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, I was in the same class with the Murchison family. And I was so glad alphabetically M came before P, so he could be inducted before me, because I would feel bad to be inducted into any Hall of Fame as a Dallas Cowboy before a great leader and owner like Clint Murchison, okay?
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. I feel the same way about the Hall of Fame, okay? Now, I don't have much play, but I guarantee you, when I get up there to make my speech,
Oh, boy.
okay?
Hey.
You got to give the Hall of Fame committee your speech. They got to prep it or make sure you don't cuss or whatever. I'm going to give them one speech, and when I get to the podium, I'm pulling out another one. And that's the one I'm going to give, and I'm going to be pushing for Mr. Murchison, Clint Murchison, to be in the Hall of Fame, because it's injustice that he's not considered, not in the running, not a finalist, not anything. So don't get me started. Hut, all right? I'm serious.
All right.
Are
good
you
night.
going to use?
Oh, sorry.
Are you going? Well, no, I'm not going to say that.
No holds barred here.
No. I was going to say, are you going to use the speech that you wrote before the last year's Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I got to adjust it. I got to make some adjustments, but I'm definitely going to use it.
I guess.
Yes, it'll be
Teammates
3
can
hours,
make
but we'll
those
get
jokes,
through
I
it.
guess.
I can mess with him. He's my buddy.
Oh, no,
You know.
we're good, man. We're free agents.
Yeah.
We're free agents. We're just glad to be here.
I want to talk to the guy who was drafted here for a minute. Mel, what was it like coming into this situation in '64? The Cowboys, there was some frustration that they hadn't, gone further than they had in the postseason, next year's champions and all that stuff. And even Coach Landry obviously felt the heat. He got that long-term contract extension, which ended up being a no-brainer when you look back on it now. But was there a lot of pressure in town on the Cowboys for not having won a title yet, 5-6 years into the organization?
Oh, yeah, we had some sports writers that were vicious. I mean,
No.
they wrote stuff that,
Hanson wasn't here yet, was he? No.
No. But it was terrible. I mean, you just never knew what you were going to read in the paper, after a game. I mean, they butchered players, they butchered coaches, they butchered game plans. Each week it was something new, and it was tough. It was tough to get through. But Coach Landry, with his strength, his character, he endured, and he just kept the faith and kept us positive. He kept everything inside the room, where we met. Go keep everything in the room, and we're going to work this out, and just to work hard and continue to be consistent at what we did. And just game by game, we just kept doing what we knew what to do, and he held us together.
What was it like to finally break through? You playing those back-to-back championship games against the Packers, some of the most famous games in NFL history, but then finally that title happens, and we can just picture that NFL Films shot of Coach Landry up on the shoulders, still wearing the
clouds
fedora.
Opened up, man. There was no better feeling than that in the world when we broke through. And when we lost in Super Bowl V, it was devastating. I mean, just devastating. But Super Bowl VI, it just, the smoke cleared, the clouds went away, the sun came out, and from then on, it was clear sailing.
Yeah.
Cliff, what are your greatest memories in terms of rivalries, specific moments that you'll always remember? I mean, obviously the Super Bowl wins are the most memorable, but I'm guessing the heartbreaking losses maybe stick with you just as much, huh?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough question, Mike. I have nightmares still about the Super Bowl 13 and Super Bowl 10, and thinking about the plays that I could have made that would have made a difference in winning that Super Bowl. So I don't remember it, the victories. The thing is, don't remember the victories in my mind and my dreams and everything else is going on. I remember, gosh, if I could have done this, because I think that's the way a defensive player kind of thinks, different than an offensive player.
Absolutely.
A defensive player thinks, hey, here's the way that what I'm going to do this time that I didn't do right last time, because I'm not going to make that mistake again. That one blitz on Super Bowl, Roger Staubach and I, every time we have lunch, we go, Roger starts it. He says, what happened in Super Bowl 13? And I said, good gosh, Roger, we just needed to score more points than the other team. So I think about the blitz on Terry Bradshaw, and I think, gosh, I wonder if I should have just reached up there and hit that ball instead of trying to tackle Bradshaw on the blitz, I mean, little things like that are things that percolate up in my mind of those Steeler games. They were so close, and it just grinds on me all the time. I know we could have beaten those guys.
Does it still kind of make your stomach churn even when you watch a game like last Sunday? And I'll ask you about this year's Cowboys in a minute. I'm not asking about that. But just when you see that Steeler uniform still, does it just kind of?
No, it was really interesting. I mean, that game, I think that we really were beginning to see some energy with the Cowboys and see them really attacking. And the thing I think that was really interesting was the rivalry that still exists between the Cowboys and the Steelers, because you could see that Steelers were really coming back fiercely in that fourth quarter when it was like, wow, this is really interesting, because I'd been in that situation before, and because we were close enough to beat the guys, and we were surprisingly, but we didn't get beat, but I felt a real interesting energy there, and I think that hopefully that's going to prevail for the rest of the season. We're going to get better and better, and but an interesting feeling about the Steelers coming back, because they're tough, man, and I think if we get back together again, we can beat them.
Yeah, we can beat them. We can beat them this time around. Yeah,
Well,
bring them on. Come on,
bring them on. I'm really.
Yeah, let's
Drew.
go. I'm
I
fired
know
up,
we can.
Cliff. Let's go.
So Drew, you're part of the most arguably famous play in NFL history. What did Coach Landry say after you came off the field after the Hail Mary?
That's what he said. No, he didn't have to say anything. He didn't congratulate
No.
very often. But you see the feeling of satisfaction on his face, okay, in his actions and his movements and stuff like that. And I watched the video of that and that game, and what's so interesting that the last game in NFL history played where two teams were both on the same sideline. Can you believe that happening nowadays?
That's right.
That old Met Stadium. And then, and after the play, they showed some footage of Coach Landry and how excited he got for Coach Landry, okay? For us, it was minimum, okay? But for him, it was big deal. And, but, he didn't congratulate very often.
No.
But you knew when you did it right, because you didn't get criticized, okay?
Yeah.
And when you did get criticized, boy, the last thing you wanted was, because we did it together, offense, defense, special team. We're watching all the films together. Everybody's being accountable to each other. So when you knew you made something, a bad play, and that play's coming up on the film, you're sliding down in the chair. You should see Too Tall trying to hide, And so when that play comes, you know it's coming. He's going to criticize you, but you're not so much embarrassed about the play. You give your best effort, but you're embarrassed that you let your teammates down, and he wants you to feel that, and you felt that. So now you can't wait to get back out there, not just in the game, but in practice, to show not Coach Landry necessarily, show him too, but show your teammates that you're on the same page with them. All right, you're going to correct this mistake, and it won't happen again. So he made us accountable to each other. Just by him being accountable to him and doing it the right way. We all wanted to just do it the right way and please him. And it made, I'm an undrafted free agent. I ran a 4.6 40. I was 165 pounds coming out of Tulsa. I could hardly touch the rim. But one thing I can do is catch the football, and I was smart, and I had good character. And that's what Coach Landry looked for in players. Number one thing he looked for was character. Second thing he looked for was intelligence. Third thing he looked for was passion. And fourth thing he looked for was talent. If you had the other three and talent, you had a chance to be a success with the Cowboys. Now, some of them came into the league with a little more talent than others, that came with some natural talent.
There you go.
And you didn't have to worry about coaching that talent up.
Yeah.
But because of the system was set up the way it was, and Coach Landry led that system, he was able to coach up talent. And he recognized, even if you didn't have the measurables, like the speed, the height, the weight, he recognized if you took that tape measure and put it around this guy's heart, he knew he had a good football player. Bam, 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 And that's what I'm talking about.
I'm going to open it up to the room here in just a second. If you have a question you'd like to ask one of our panelists, we'll give you an opportunity to do that. But Cliff talked about, the game against Pittsburgh this last Sunday. I just want to get a quick word, Mel, from you, first of all, just about what it's like to watch the Dallas Cowboys now. It's been tough for a long time, obviously, from a championship perspective. It's been such a weird year for so many reasons, obviously, that are much more important than football. But it's tough to watch these games on Sunday this year?
That is a very, very difficult question. You just can't put your finger on it. You see a lot of things about no preseason, no training camp, injuries, new coaching staff, a lot of things going on that might be a reason, but still, you got to go out and play. We got football players got to play football, and they're not doing it. And I thought I knew football. I thought I knew football well, new players, abilities, and but I can't put my finger on it. I can't figure it out. They're not getting there, and I can't figure out why. I don't know if you can, Drew, or Cliff, or you, Mike. or anybody out
Well,
there.
I'm always willing to offer my opinion.
Come on,
but
bring it on. Somebody say something. I
Obviously-
don't know. I can't go there.
You know,
Obviously,
I think the players today, these players, you know, they like being a Dallas Cowboy, okay? But they don't know what it means being a Dallas Cowboy.
That's right.
All right? They don't know, they don't observe the history or anything. And a big reason they don't is because they separate the history from this current team. You know, if they bring a Mel Renfro around or Cliff Harris around that locker room and show these guys and tell these guys what it's about and what it means to be a Dallas Cowboy, instead of somebody coming off the street trying to explain to them what it is that never experienced it, then I think the players would have a different level of attitude and emotion going into these games. And I don't care if you have the talent or what, you know, just give the effort. That's all we're asking. You know, I can't tell you the last time I fell asleep on a Dallas Cowboy football game. Well, it was last game, okay? The third quarter, I'm like, and it was the best game of the season, okay? And so, you know, I mean, just play with some heart and know what you're representing, okay? I know when I came to the Cowboy, I knew what I was representing. I didn't want to let the Cowboy organization down by not doing anything, not playing the game like it's supposed to be played on the field and doing bad things off the field. I never wanted to represent the Cowboys bad on the field or off the field. And I think these guys, you know, they throw that money around, they give these guys that money, and the next thing you know, they think they're it because of that. But if they gave us that kind of money, Amari Cooper, God bless him. I was going to say God rest his soul. He's still there, isn't he? Okay. You know, I mean, $19 million, you know, a season. My first year's salary was $14.5. Okay? What was yours, Cliff?
It was less than that.
It was less? Yeah. Oh, my God. Because you're a little
Free
before me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the money was a little different. Right. Mel, what was yours as a number one pick and all that? What was your first year's salary?
Yeah, you wouldn't. 20.
20, see?
20.
Ooh.
Wow.
And, you know,
second round pick in 64.
20.
20,000.
20. You know, I mean, so you see that, you see the numbers that they get, and you're saying, what is wrong with them? I wouldn't be satisfied with just one of those contracts. I'd be trying to get 2 or 3 of those contracts in my career, you know, so now you're set for life after football. And that's another thing Coach Landry used to do he prepared us for life after football because he always talked about that. Life after football. He knew the money we were making was not going to be enough to sustain for a life after football. And he always said, if you're fortunate enough, there's going to be a lot of life after football. And, you know, for us, there's been a lot of life after football. And so, you know, we had to prepare for that. And so the way we prepared is we did things. I worked every offseason I played for the Dallas Cowboys, okay? I had a job other than catching passes. I caught the Hail Mary. Next thing you know, I'm selling shoes at Coleman Bowman Sporting Goods, okay? You know, you had to supplement. You had to do these things. Didn't you work?
Yeah.
Didn't you work?
Yeah.
How about Robert Newhouse? Robert Newhouse would leave practice, scurrying out of there on a Tuesday and Thursday. House, where you going? You know, he wouldn't even shower with his nasty self. House, where you going? He's throwing on his clothes. He's taking off that equipment and throwing on his clothes. He said, man, I got classes. I got to be in class in 30 minutes at the University of Dallas. You know, I'm studying it. I'm working to get my master's degree in math from the University of Dallas while he's playing for the Dallas Cowboys. But no, and Roger, you know, I mean, he worked the whole time. We all did. And, but we took the notoriety, recognition as Dallas Cowboys into our lives after football. Yeah. And that's where the value came, all right? It wasn't in dollars and cents. It was in that association. Because every time you needed to go into a door for a business meeting, you mentioned Drew Pearson with the Dallas Cowboys, come right on in. Open up the door and come right on in. You know, you might not get the business. You know, you might not even get the opportunity to talk business. But you're going to get in there. And eventually you're going to get that opportunity to talk business. But it's all about the respect that the Dallas Cowboys get. And I just wish these guys, current guys, would understand what that is about, okay? You're making that good money now, but what are you going to do? What? How many years you been out? 30, 40? You know, what are you going to do 40 years out of the game, you know? And we're still taking advantage 40 years, 30 years, 50 years, whatever it is, out of the game of being a Dallas Cowboy and living off of that. So that's the value for us.
Does he have some passion or what?
Yes.
Huh?
And he's
That's
making
right, you know.
he's making 14.5, and he's still got to get decleated during practice from this guy. You know, that's
Yeah, and
the
then
way
you're
things
running,
were
you know,
back
the
then.
best two defensive backs I played against in the NFL were both named Mel, okay? Mel Renfro and Mel Blunt, okay? And, much respect for both.
All right.
Of course,
Who's
Mel
got
every
who's
day.
got a question out here? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's true. Amen.
Amen.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right on.
Did you feel that, Cliff, when you played? I mean, that passion from the fans that he's referring to, that almost almost religious type of passion from
Yeah,
fans?
I mean,
Oh, yeah,
the,
it's
the
awesome.
uniqueness of the Dallas Cowboys and being America's team, you know, you were set up to play at a different standard, and the fans, you know, understood that and expected that, and you know, they expected a higher level of performance from you as America's team. And, you know, it was kind of like what Drew was saying. You know, we responded to that, and we responded to Coach Landry as a leader, and it was, I mean, a unique experience to come into something as cool as Texas Stadium, come down that ramp and come outside and then try to catch a punt when you're backing up and you're going from the dark into the light, and then you got to catch it. So it was fun.
Yeah.
That's something they still haven't gotten right. They've got the sun shining through
I
those
know, that's
windows
still
on the
the-
side.
But it was
there.
it was just an incredible experience to have Coach Landry as a mentor, like Drew was saying, and not only a mentor, but a person that you, I mean, that you knew that as quiet as he was, you know, he cared about you as a player. I mean, it was a unique experience. You know, the guys that he didn't care about, the guys that didn't fit into our mold as a team, he got rid of. And you know, we knew a lot of players that were great athletes that didn't stay with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes.
Sir.
Uh-oh.
You know, you're one of about 10 million people that have asked me that question. And I've always given the same answer. I had no sensation of touching the ball. No.
Bad call.
So the rest is history.
That's how a gentleman answers that question
Yeah.
right there. Yes, sir.
Sir. Well, not really. Probably a lot of crying going on. Yeah, yeah. And that had a great impact. Literally.
Good answer, Mel.
And you know what happened after that game? We didn't lose another game all year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, right. Exactly.
Nice.
Time for a few more, yes. Questions have to do with Coach Landry's relationships with his assistants and how things worked on draft day. I guess you could speak to the first one anyway, just how Coach Landry coached the coaches, so to speak.
Well, you know, we were really involved in that. I mean, Mel or Drew may know that was not, you know, I mean, part of the role that we played as a player. I don't know.
But I'm guessing he,
No,
you know,
I-
obviously some
yeah.
of his assistant coaches, you know, were great coaches in their own
Coaches
right, and
themselves.
Yeah,
obviously
they-
he let them do their jobs, and they, you know,
did
did them well.
That's a
Well, I coached in '85 on the staff. I was there, okay, and I saw the relationship, and it's just like with the players. The coaches were intimidated by Coach Landry, just like the players.
yeah.
And we would sit on Tuesday, getting the game plan ready for Wednesday, and that game coming up that Sunday, and we'd start the meeting at 7 a.m., and we'd be trying to come up with plays for that particular week, and Coach Landry would stick his head in the meeting, and we'd say, we're not ready yet, and then come back, no. We finally come in and present them, and the plays we're going to use, and he's sitting up there and can't run that, can't run that, can't run that, can't. Here's what we're going to do. He gets to the blackboard and draws up all these plays, and Jim Schaffner, Jim Myers, Dick Nolan, all sitting there. You know, why didn't we think of that?
Yeah.
And then after he did that, he'd leave that meeting and go
Yeah.
where?
Defensive
Meeting
Yeah.
and lay that game plan out.
But-
so it's just amazing.
But I think that the question about, you know, because I know where you're going on that question about today's world, and today's world is, you know, hey, we're going to get Amari Cooper, we're going to get this, and this is a player we get, and we're going to have this draft, and who makes those decisions? Well, you know, I mean, when you have a Dallas Cowboys team that's one team like us, and we're all the same players, man, that forms a real solid cast that you can coach and you can manage and you can direct and motivate. You know, it's probably a difficult time for coaches today, and I don't know where this is, you know, when you say, hey, we're bringing in Amari Cooper, and he comes in, he's a great player, and we're going to throw you in and you coach him, you know, and even though they're great players, because it's probably a difficult task to not have a consistent team like Coach Landry did at that time, and to be able to motivate those guys and know how, because, I mean, he'd get rid of guys that he knew he couldn't motivate, like I was saying. If you didn't respond to his subtlety, you were gone. And if you didn't respond to, hey, if you didn't wear a tie on the road trip, hey, man, you're taking a chance. So it was, you know, the respect that's there for the coaches, for Coach Landry, made it had a tremendous effect on the team itself, you know, and right. So I mean,
Yeah.
so it's a, you know, so it's a different world today because it's a money game today. They're making millions and millions of dollars into a business transaction more than a. So that doesn't answer your question, but
No.
I don't have an answer.
Good answers. I think time for one more. Yes. The first question has to do with how the term Americans team was coined. I believe that was NFL Films. I don't know
Yeah.
what the year
Yeah.
was.
Purchasers might know
76?
better than that. I think it was after that 77 Super Bowl, maybe at Super Bowl 12. And I think the idea was Tex Ram's idea, and he put it in the mouths of the people at NFL Films.
It was planted, yeah.
Yeah.
But
was planted.
it was
Yeah.
before that, I think.
It
was
might have been
even
before that, yeah.
And then the second question had to do with Cliff and Charlie and the great tandem they were all those years.
I was just running through a series of stories about Charlie, and I've X'd out about 20 of them. I couldn't tell you. But you know, there are so many things that Charlie and I G'd and hawed so well up there together. And gosh, yeah. No, we didn't.
Because there was no contest
There was
there.
no contest.
All due respect, Charlie Waters, but
Charlie Waters says
Nah.
we were in the Washington game, and it
Nah.
was, and we were behind in Washington, and up in the. I mean, it was just a great environment up there, and we were behind, and Charlie and I were back on punts, and he. This is the way he tells the story. So they punted the ball, and it was short, and I said, "You got it, Charlie," and so he ran with it, and they were just pounding him. And I mean, the Redskins, I tried to block somebody, and the Redskins, and he was spinning around and broke his arm, and the bone was sticking out. And bone was sticking out. They put a pin in. He played the rest of the year with a rod in his arm. And the way he tells the story is he looks up, he says that I say, you know, I saw all those guys coming down. I said, "Hey, you got it, Charlie." That's not the truth, though.
yeah,
I
right.
have a final question for all of you here in just a second, and they're telling me I need to wrap up, so I want to make a few quick announcements here. We ask you to consider becoming a member of the Dallas Historical Society so you can be the first to know about our exciting programming, including Brown Bag and evening lecture series and special events like tonight's exclusive Landry Legacy exhibit. Coming November 17th, right here at the Hall of State, the next evening lecture series is a conversation about freedom colonies or freedmen's towns across Texas from 1865 to 1920. Former enslaved persons founded hundreds of communities called freedom colonies. These African-American men and women came together to govern themselves and to create cohesive communities that could support businesses and schools and churches in the Dallas area. Some of the freedmen's communities were Deep Elm or Deep Ellum, Freedmen's Town, North Dallas, or State Thomas, the 10th Street community, Little Egypt as well. The panel discussion features Robert Swan and W. Marvin Delaney and Shalandria C. Gallimore. And if you want more football talk, join the Dallas Historical Society December 3rd. Thursday Night Lights, the story of black high school football in Texas with Michael Hurd. Thursday Night Lights tells the inspiring, largely unknown story of African-American high school football in Texas. Again, that's December 3rd for Thursday Night Lights. Final question and a quick answer, if you would. Mel Renfro, if you could say one thing to Tom Landry if he were here right now, what would you say to your former coach?
I appreciate what he did for me as far as what type of person he made me be. what I turned out to be was because of his influence.
Well said. Cliff?
Well, you know, I think about making it in pro football, and we were in such a unique situation with Tom Landry. Any other pro football team that you play on doesn't have a system and a person like Tom Landry leading that, and a person of faith, and a person, and I'm going to tell you, so, and you're a young guy that's 21 to 32 or whatever Mel was when he retired, and that's a formative time in your life. You think about a guy that's playing pro football and has the world at his hand, and it can go pretty wild. But Tom Landry kept us and kept us to keep an image and players as America's team. And I would say, hey, Coach, thank you very much for what you did, because you held my hand during some times and made me the person that I am today. Helped me make me the person that I am today. Thank you. That's what I'd say.
Drew?
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. I would say that, you know, he made me the person that I am today. And like I said, the mentorship that I absorbed by being around him, I live my life exactly like that now. And so I would say to Coach Landry, if he was here right now, thank you, and I miss you.
All right. Let's hear it for our panel, everybody. Hall of Famer Mel Renfro, soon-to-be Hall of Famer Cliff Harris, and soon-to-be Hall of Famer Drew Pearson as well. All right, thanks, everybody. Enjoy the exhibit, everybody. Thanks so much.